Okay, good morning. This is day number 144 of making little videos describe a day of thought in the life of schizophrenic. My name is Dominic and I experience schizophrenia, but I don't believe it is a disease and that I am subject rather to a cognitive war. I have written a book on medium.com describing my thought processes, which could have gotten me targeted. And I expressed some amount of research on voice hearing and mind reading, which is two symptoms that schizophrenics describe. And on day 17 of these videos, I describe why I call myself a schizophrenic rather than targeted individual. And on day 45, I describe why I make these videos in the first place with a 3-minute intro. And there's the rest of the day's video. On day 138, I describe some of my symptoms as a schizophrenic that I have, not all of them. And I have on that book that I've written is called Unveiling the Schizophrenic Tradition, and I intend to publish it when I return from a hiking trip that I'm going on in about a month's time. So this will be my last video until then. I make these videos to humanize myself amidst the dehumanization campaign that I experience and defamation of my character that goes on in the intelligence world or something, and I try to defeat the stigma of my mental illness, which has been inflicted upon me, schizophrenia. Okay, so I read out of these thought logs, and the first thing I was going to talk about today was the Chicago Apocalypse Now post that Donald Trump, where he declared war on Chicago. And it's the worst thing he's done as president, in my opinion. And I don't really understand how there's not an uproar and he's being impeached for it. He's started a civil war as president, and I don't know how independents can go along with that, and I don't know how he has 43% approval rating. It's it's really bizarre to me. You can't call yourself an independent if you want to go to war with cities in the United States or whatever. Okay, so you're not really independent. You're in a cult, and so that's my opinion on that. And so, all right, that's all I wanted to say about the Chicago. It's the craziest thing he's done, and uh, I'm leaving the country for a little couple for some weeks here, and I don't know what's gonna happen when I get back. I'd like to see Julie Fowlis in concert. She's a Scottish singer, and so she's gonna be on the East Coast in October, and I'm gonna miss her, and so I would have flown out there to probably see a concert of hers, but that's not gonna happen, and so it would be cool to see her in the future if she ever comes back to the United States next year or something. It'd be cool if she came to the West Coast. So I guess I'm gonna say that because as a schizophrenic, you say things and sometimes they happen. Not all the time. Sometimes weird broken thoughts happen, and sometimes you think things and they do happen, or you say things out loud and it happens or whatever. And so, just gonna say that. And I read out of Not So Misfit Odyssey, a great scene of watermelon smashing and a flock of pigeons. So there's a scene in Not So Misfit Odyssey where the Juanito is escaping the slaughterhouse and he knocks over a cart, and he's heading north to Texas, and a watermelon smashes and a flock of pigeons comes in and eats the watermelon, and I thought that was a very funny visual, and I thought it really made the scene. So I took note of that today. Uh, in The World Made the West book, it discusses how Rome and Greece were held by scholarship to be the basis for Western civilization, and it discusses how the term civilization was first used in 1750s France, apparently, according to this author, Josephine Quinn, I think. And so it discusses how uh, scholarship has held out civilizations to be distinct, separate things. Like Western civilization is like a distinct, separate thing from other civilizations. But like, for instance, Rome and Greece, where they celebrated the way that they borrowed and used used things from world empires and contemporarily the empires during their days or whatever. So like, you know, France or Greece and Rome both used borrowed from other empires from around the world to create their civilization or whatever. And so they weren't really separate. They were not really distinctly Western. You know, they were East. They were kind of borrowing from. There was a lot of interaction going on, and the author talking is saying that basically there's this myth that the world was cocooned off from each other, and that there were these distinct civilizations and stuff. And so I think that's what the author's going to get into as we go on in the book. I plan to read that book every day. It's a big book, and I plan to read that book every day because I have a strong interest in it. And the other books I rotate through or whatever. But in that book, I plan to read on a daily basis or whatever. So yeah, the first term for civilization was first used in 1750s France, and I didn't really know this. I don't know if I learned this in school and I just forgot, but I don't think I did learn that in school. But uh, maybe I did, and it didn't register as important then, but it does now. All right, so that's what I read out of that book today, and so I read also something about rinderpest as a result. So in the early or late 19th century, early 20th century, Italians were colonizing Ethiopia, and they brought cattle in to feed their soldiers as they were trying to conquer Ethiopia, and they spread a disease called rinderpest, and it knocked out the wildebeests, and so there was a lot of grass that grew and dried out and caught on fire repetitively, and it decimated the forests in the Serengeti, and they almost eliminated the whole of Serengeti. And then there was a vaccine that came about after that happened, and they vaccinated the wildebeest, and it helped to eliminate the rinderpest disease, and the wildebeest altered the landscape. The point of this book is to discuss how uh, I think it's called "When the Earth Was Green" book, and it or Becoming Earth. Maybe it's Becoming Earth. I'm iffy on which book it is, but it discusses how biology alters the landscape and geology of the Earth, and so this is an example of like the wildebeest being hugely responsible for the re, re, the regrowth of the Serengeti forest, which is now a carbon sink, and so like it 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 it's a carbon sink for carbon dioxide now. And another example of a animal altering landscape is elephant steps. A lot of people didn't know this, but for the elephants, every time they make a step, they create a little ecosystem as puddles gather in their steps and stuff. And it creates little ecosystems of bugs and animals, and it alters the landscape in a serious way and stuff. And so I thought that was interesting. And so I learned about those two things today. Uh, I am eating currently a tofu. It's a fava bean tofu that my sister-in-law uh, used over it this way, and I actually went to Sprouts and I got this fava bean tofu, and it's 64 grams of protein in about 400 calories if you count like 100 calories of olive oil, and that's a good chunk of protein, and it's keto friendly and stuff. Not that I'm keto or anything, but it's kind of nice to eat like a protein source that doesn't have carbs and stuff. If it's a vegetarian protein source, and so it's a fava bean source, and so I've been eating that. So it's soy free and stuff. Not that soy is bad or whatever, but it's kind of nice to have soy free. And so yeah, so I've been eating that, and I'm making little tofu and peppers and onions, and I actually made it with curry, but my mom doesn't like curry, and so we cannot make it stuck up the whole house with curry, and so I enjoy it. I love curry and everything, but she's very sensitive. She's she has a very sensitive nose or whatever for that kind of thing. So uh, I plan to make it with like a barbecue rub for now, and maybe a chili powder in the future. It tastes pretty good. So I'm just learning how to do that kind of thing. And so I'm trying, like I said, trying to become vegetarian, but not succeeding all the time. And I still do eat chicken and meat on occasion. And like I say, like I wrote today, I was like, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. And it wasn't reference to this, but like kind of like this, but like when I go to France or when I go to overseas or whatever, I'm just gonna eat what's like the best thing to eat on the menu, not the best, but like like the healthiest thing to eat on the menu, and uh, if it happens to be vegetarian, if like there's a good option for vegetarian food, then I'll eat the vegetarian food. But if it's not a very good option in those countries or we're in the little spot where we are, I'll probably just do as they do in that country and eat like uh, salmon or something or whatever they have, fish. Or I do still eat sushi, like I had sushi today, but like I say, I tried to protect the ocean and stuff. And that's my little thing. All right, so that's what I have to say today. I plan to stop these videos for a month here because I'm going on a trip for the Camino de Santiago in Spain, and then I'm traveling with my folks, and we're going to uh, England and France. And my parents have never been to England and France, so that'll be good. We're leaving here in about a week, so we have some loose ends to tie up. And I want to have a clear head when we go. I don't want to be dealing with this like schizophrenia videos and all that. And so I plan to take a break from this for a month here. And so if you do follow along these videos and you find them interesting, I hopefully will start them up again in November or end of October. And yeah, so I'm thinking that's when I'll start them up again. A lot of stuff is happening in this country, like we're made descending into a civil war, and so seems like it gets intensified every time I start these videos. And I don't I don't want to say a lot of I have a lot of thoughts on that, but I don't know if they're worth sharing because I don't want to hinder the opposition to abuse by the executive branch of government. And so I don't think I'll say everything that I think about it. And so, uh, yeah, so I'm going to stop here and thank you for taking the time to watch these if you do. And so, maybe I'll start them up again in a month. And, all right, that's it. Okay, goodbye.